Injuries happen to the best of us, and in this video I'll be talking through the experiences that I've been through, literally days, weeks away from a major event like London Marathon, and how I prepared both physically and mentally to deal with an injury. Be sure to stick along to the very end, where I'm going to be going through lots of hints, tips, suggestions that will help you hopefully overcome whatever issues you may have. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe and hit that alarm bell, because I will be releasing a series of videos during this week in preparation for London Marathon. So thank you so much for your support and love. Let's crack on with the video. Thank you guys and gals for tuning in. I really do appreciate your support on this, because the reason why I'm doing this video is over the past few days, because it's now Tuesday, literally before London Marathon on Sunday. Don't worry, don't panic guys. For those who've been watching regularly, I'm fine, fit, healthy at the moment, yes. But I've come across so many runners over the past few days and weeks. I've come across a number of runners who have either picked up some niggles, injuries, and are in a bit of a dilemma, a bit of a sticky point of what to do, because there's two things that I'll be covering through in this video. Not what we can do in terms of helping us physically, but also mentally, because it can be a bit of a mental strain, and covering the two areas of before the event options that we have, and then during the actual event when the race is going on. Because believe you me, I've been there, done it, got multiple t-shirts of all the situations that could possibly happen, and hopefully this video will help you make that decision of what is best for you. As I said, I have literally collected all the t-shirts that could happen before marathons, races, 10k races, 5ks, of what I've had to go through, and it's been at times quite straining mentally, but also physically and cash wise, because sometimes we've invested in hotels, flights to go to these events, and we're not up for it. What do we do? So I'm going to go through, there's about 2 or 3 options. I say 2 or 3 because I'm literally going to talk ad lib as I go through, because it's all about helping you guys. And I know there may be a number of you guys going through situations right now where you've picked up a niggle injury. I mean, literally for me, the previous marathon, not even a week before, it was over a week just before, I picked up a niggle on my glute, which basically took out what I was hoping to run as a new PB in my marathon. But I decided, based on the level and severity of that injury, that it was okay to do the race. Some situations we may not be as fortunate as that. So for me, the first step I would say for you to take if you do have an injury or niggle is to go and see a professional physio, sports physio, and let them assess whether it's good, bad or indifferent, and whether you can or can't do the actual race itself. Ultimately, it's your decision what you want to do. And I've been in situations where, looking back at some races, I shouldn't have really ran them. No, I should not have ran them. I should have taken professional advice. But sometimes we feel obliged, especially for something like London Marathon, where a lot of you guys may be running for a particular charity, and we feel that, you know, we have a responsibility for that charity to do that. So I'm going to go through what options you do have if, in the inevitable case, you may not be able to run the race, because there are other ways of completing the actual event. Yes, there are other options of completing the event. I think, well, when I last checked, certainly for London Marathon or any other marathons, there may be 2 options. Yeah. The first option is you may be able to defer the actual race, and I think sometimes you can leave that right up to the Saturday before. But that's an option which I've taken and I've had to do with a number of marathons, where I've deferred it and decided not to run, or basically lost the entry fee and not ran it, because at the end of the day I need to look after my long-term physical well-being, and that's one of the considerations. Depending on the severity of the injury that you have, you may need to take up that option. The second option is that, parking our ego to one side, and speaking to one of the guys this week, he's going to be running London Marathon but nowhere near the times that he's looking to do. So it's managing your expectations during the race. So there's no shame in walking, whether you walk the whole 26.2 or walk parts of it. you've still finished it. So that could be an option. But sometimes I know certainly at the higher end, or a number of the elites, if they've picked up certain injuries, they will not race the marathon, because to them it's all about racing and getting a particular time. For some of us, it's about finishing. Yeah, not just finishing, it's still a long way, yeah, but it's about finishing. So you need to make that call, looking after. For me, it's all about long-term physical well-being. If I've got an injury and I'm gonna, even if I walk 26.2, it could cause me long-term physical distress, shall we say. And I certainly had that with New York City Marathon, where I'd picked up quite a nasty injury where I could barely walk weeks away from the start, and I was restricted to 3 weeks of literally just some short hill sprints to try and loosen up the issue that was happening there. And I was having intense physio every week to get myself fit and well. But that's New York City Marathon, big first ever major that I had. Booked hotels, Airbnbs. It was one of my children's major birthday. We were going, whatever was going to happen. But I always had my plan B, and plan B may be an option that you can consider that can help, not just physically, but also with our mental well-being. Plan B, yes, plan B. If you have booked accommodation, flights and all that jazz, it may be similar to London Marathon where you're travelling down, you've got a hotel, you can't cancel it or anything like that. There is another option, and this is the option that I always considered, and it kept me in terms of my sanity or whatever, because New York City Marathon for me, as well as being the first marathon major, it was a big deal, and I trained and I was such a top level of fitness, and then all of a sudden that injury occurred and I was out. But I had my plan B ready. We were going out there, we had the flights booked, everything booked. So what was my plan B? And I have adopted this plan B when I had to pull out of Boston and Manchester Marathon one year. It was a difficult decision, but in the end it was an easy one to make. So I decided, yeah, let's do that. Manchester Marathon, I did take up plan B. New York, I had it there, and it was literally right up to the Saturday before I was in Central Park, and that shakeout run determined whether I would go to the start of the marathon or not. I did not enter, because normally when I go to these majors I like to do the 5k race. So there was the new Manhattan 5k. I did not enter that because the build up towards New York, I could barely go 3k without basically getting some pain in my knee, and it was really hurting. So I let it rest, I let it ease off, and for me, I'd taken up the plan A and went to the start, and believe me, it was quite an experience. But looking at things long term, the health and all that type of stuff, it is really essential to contain that. For me, I'd done the race, it was for charity as well, raising awareness for Hibbs Lupus Trust, and I finished and it felt amazing, but I knew that there would be more time needed for recovery. So it took literally about 2 months to recover from that before I got back into some good running. I was doing some easy runs but didn't get back into it. But I did adopt what I call this plan B for Manchester, where I still went along and I spectated. So you might have seen that video where I was a spectator at Manchester Marathon. I went and filmed it and took part, met all the runners, and it was like being part of the event but not actually having to run it. So it may sound a bit strange, and it may not be for some of you. It worked for me. I absolutely loved the day out and meeting some people. I even got to see Colin out there on the course. Colin Johnson, what an amazing runner. And I even jumped on the course with some people I recognised and ran along with them for about 10 yards, 20 yards. Yeah, bearing in mind, you know, the injury was still there. But the excitement and the joy of just being there and participating in the event. So that may be an option for you if you can't cancel the hotels in London or whatever. Still go down, and you can still go to the expo, enjoy the experience of the expo, go along and spectate at a number of locations, and it's getting the feel of the buzz. But the choice is yours really. It's what do you want to do, and I found that that helped me mentally tremendously. So those are the before the event. What about during the actual event? You've decided to run the marathon, yeah? and you've still got that niggle or injury, and as I said, it's a case of managing it. For me, as I've had in certain situations, like at Manchester last year, I really needed to listen to my body, make sure that that glute that I'd you know, injured, tweaked, that I wouldn't aggravate it more. And for me, the biggest lesson when taking part, certainly in endurance races, is there is no shame in walking. Walking is totally fine during the events, and especially if you start getting cramp or any of those things happening, it's almost essential that we start walking. Some of the best marathons I've had, I've actually walked in sections as planned walks. So that's how I worked. There is no shame in walking. As I mentioned, in some of my best races, certainly in the early days, I would have planned walking sections where I would walk through the aid stations, take my time, have a nice drink, relax, chill out, and then move on. That's perfectly fine, and there's no shame. I've known people who've walked the whole distance. If you feel you need to do the event and you're actually able to walk comfortably or not too much discomfort, then you may make the choice, yeah, you're still going to do it and go for it, which is amazing, yeah. But sometimes things happen, as happened to me last year at Yorkshire Marathon. Everything seemed to be going really well, and then all of a sudden I lost all power and energy. I didn't hit the wall, it was just not having recovered fully from the marathon 2 weeks before. So I literally walked and jogged the last 10 miles. Now, I was looking for somewhere for a bus or something to take me back to the finish line and have a DNF, because again, or did not finish, which is what that stands for. Again, there is no shame in not finishing. Believe me, you know, it's better to look after yourself long term physically and mentally than push your body through. And I know there's no pain, no gain and all that. There is a limit, but you need to make that call of where you're prepared to take it up to. And bearing in mind, you know, we don't want to break ourselves where we can't do anything long term again. To me, it almost defeats the point of the joy of running. So make that call and don't be afraid to sit it out, walk a bit, to take on board. I mean, there'll be amazing crowds at London, so that could be an option for you too in terms of during the actual event. It's quite apt now that I'm crossing a bridge over the river as I come to a close on this particular video, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Sometimes we come to a bridge and we may need to stop, turn and go the other way, and sometimes we may decide to cross that bridge and go for it. Yeah, whatever you decide to do, the very best of luck to you. So all that remains for me to say is thank you so much for watching this. I look forward to seeing you on the next video, where no doubt I will be arriving in London finally, I hope, or to travel down to London and share with you the wonderful experiences of one of the most iconic races in the world, which is London Marathon. Please do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe and hit that alarm bell if you find this useful in any way and you want to keep in touch with what's happening in the future here on this channel. Love you all, guys. Peace out. Bye bye bye. But I've come across so many runners over the past, as the flies are, oh, pesky flies. Anyway, maybe I should edit that, because it's all about helping you guys, and I know some of you, as I there may be a number of, so I decided, yeah, let's do that, as I've got some local dogs here have shown some interest. Yes, Manchester Marathon has certainly pesky flies again. Anyway, what was I saying?